So I got into the field of sustainability about almost 20 years ago, and I came at it from a very strong business sense, from a from a Wall Street perspective. But once I got into it, beyond the financial side, beyond the environmental side, I found there was huge opportunities on the social side. So with that, I really started to work with different organizations to make sure that they understood what sustainability actually meant. So if you look at the original definition that comes from 1987 from the Brundtland Commission of the United Nations, it basically says that we as a generation should live within our means for using up all of the resources. But as you might know, as a planet, we use 2.5 times the allocated resources within a year based on our planet. So one way to look at sustainability is do more with less. The other thing that I really like is, all waste equals fuel. And once you start looking at that perspective, and you look at energy efficiency first, right? So if you look at the recycling, the triangle, people keep forgetting reduce and reuse comes before recycle. So people feel good by putting things in the recycling bin, but we found out, unfortunately, that so much of that never actually gets repurposed and recycled. So that's one area. But we have to think about how to reduce and how to reuse first. So keep that in mind as we go through this. And the other big part of it was education. So I know we're talking about reinventing education. We're talking about reinventing education. Joe, go ahead and move over here. We have a live 3D metaverse going on. So I'm at Diner's studio, and they're literally teaching kids how to do puzzles, how to scan it into the 3D universe, how to interact with it. And then it comes and has this. So that's what I was talking about. This is a truly immersive experience. And this is Ken. Hey, Ken, introduce yourself real quick.
I'm Ken, and artist who likes to help kids see their vision in 3D across the globe.
It's awesome. So he's an art teacher, and in the 3D universe that he's built, we actually have United Nations sustainability goals built in there. So people are learning about the UN SDGs in the metaverse. So they can walk around with it, which is nice because you can interact with it. So in my work with NASDAQ, I help build the NASDAQ Global Sustainability Index. And that's what that does. It takes a holistic look in terms of 100 different environmental, social, governance, and economic factors. And it's completely mapped to the UN SDG. So it's not something that's just ethereal there. So cross collaboration between the science, the technology, the engineering, and the math is very, very powerful. But when you combine that with art and storytellers, it's so much more powerful. You want to move out over here? So this is what's going on. So when you actually integrate art into the process, what you have is great storytellers. You have physicality. You have the manifestation of things, whether it's in the digital world or in the physical world. There's all sorts of amazing places that again, towards the end of the talk, if you want to stay on, I'm just going to do a quick walk around. There's so much cool things happening here. So when you look at, again, sustainability as a whole, right, from a sustainable development perspective, living within our means, we also have to be able to think about what is the further definition for sustainability. So many people have different ideas of what that means, and that's okay. That's okay because it is so comprehensive. Some people just think it's about carbon. Some people it's just about pollution. Some people it's just about environment. But it's everything. It's everything that we really engage and experience with. And once you start looking at that lens, it opens up a lot of different opportunities. So what I found is working at a global level is really interesting and challenging. But once you start working at a hyper local level, everything really changes, right? So we can look at, do we need to have more bike lanes? Yes. But if you have more bike lanes, you really want to reduce down cars. How can you do that without looking at public transit? And how can you look at public transit without saying, okay, well, is it just really high speed rails? Are we really charging a lot for that? Or are we doing public transportation that is free so it's accessible to all people, right? So I also look at inequality is something that needs to be solved, right? Inequality is systemic challenges that we need to address. And that comes from, where the resources are, what cities have the most pollution, the new infrastructure, gentrification. So I'm just giving you the dynamics. Don't look at things. I recommend to not just look at things from an environmental standpoint without looking at the socioeconomics and looking at a hyper-local and making sure that things are fair and balanced. Because there's a lot of systemic injustices, and sustainability gives us an opportunity as we come up with these solutions to make sure that we are looking at composting is the new gold. 100%. I love that. I love that comment. So in looking at this from a holistic perspective, I encourage you to always look at, are we righting the wrongs of the past? Because I do. I 100% do. And it comes from my generational family of that longer story. So maybe at this point, I've thrown a bunch out there instead of me just talking. Let me know what is of most interest, other ideas that you want me to pursue. How are you looking at making, I'm going to talk about in a second, a immersive educational game that we're working on right here in Greenville for the GVL STEAM Lab in partnership with WSS and Phoenix and Empowered and all of that. But before I do that, I'd love to know what resonated the most with folks in terms of what I talked about, setting the framing of the discussion. What fields are you most interested in learning about? What did I say that maybe wasn't expected that you would like me to pull on that thread more? So let me pause for a second so I can take a breath, a sip of water, or a cup of coffee, and then you tell me some answers to my questions, please. And I know there's a facilitator on there, so I'm asking that person to help me do that.
I have one great comment from Nisaf, who the latest comment is, I'm into STEAM innovation, which is the updated STEM in environmental literacy, and I'm an expert in green buildings and using tech to enhance and empower schools and children in this subject area. So she's very aligned with the gaming as well. And
amazing.
Yeah.
Can you help me understand what country or what area of America they're in, just to help me give a context for the educational background?
Nisaf.
I'm on a live right now.
What was your country again?
Dr. Renee.
Yes, I am from North Africa, from Tunisia. I'm not based in USA. And well, this kind of approach is very welcoming in order to enhance and empower children about environmental literacy, and especially about skills development in terms of green skills and how they can face environmental issues and problems.
So thank you for that question. So I don't know the educational system there. How is it in terms of, is it free to everyone? Is there just public school? Is there private school? If you could just help me understand that, and then I can give a really good response.
Talking about in Tunisia, we face challenges about incorporating educational system, incorporating climate education into the educational system. This issue is not only common in Tunisia but in the whole Africa, and those challenges is based or due to economical and political and social also issues in terms of the consciousness of people, schools, educators, teachers, and including also government, which should incorporate that and take measurements in order to incorporate STEAM innovation and STEAM tools and resources into the educational, into day-to-day educational system. Yes.
Fantastic. So a couple things. So one, here in the US, it is very fragmented in terms of who has access to the best technologies, the best educational systems, the best tools, right? It is very unequal because we have public schools, which everyone can go to, but then you have charter schools, private schools, elite private schools. So it isn't fair. I mentor in Title I schools here in Greenville, and they do not have anywhere near the access to technology and mentors and really learning the same way my two young boys did in New York City, who went to the United Nations International School, which speaks over 192 different languages there. 50% are diplomats from the UN and 50% are general public. My boy's mom went there, graduated from there from high school. So we were very blessed to be able to get in there as a non-diplomat. But oh my goodness, what they had access to. I mean, they're all speaking 3 different languages. They have the latest in technologies. Everyone got a Chromebook in elementary school. Like it's just, sorry, not a Chromebook, an Airbook, an Apple Airbook. So it's not fair. The way that I look at things from an educational standpoint is different, right? You can look at it from a workforce development. This way, it cuts through the politics. If you go to a politician, well, of course we want the best workforce development, right? So if these kids are going to graduate from high school, do we want them to not have the same access? No, we want to have the right skills, and STEAM is the future. So we want to be able to train. So we've set up a GVL STEAM lab that will be doing this for free. So, and we have great support from the county, from the local businesses, because that's what we're doing. They've actually asked me to run a conference around advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, AI, sustainability, robotics, STEAM, because they do believe that only 46% of the students here are going on to college. We need to get them into Greenville Technical School and everything else. So skills development can be looked at differently than getting a 4-year degree. Skill certificates, hands-on applications, as we're seeing here today. Everyone is here from Dodge to GE to BMW to Michelin to the Society of Women Engineers, like over here. Like, this is great, and this is all free and accessible. So they understand they need to invest in the youth of the future right now. So getting them into STEM skills as well as AI in the right way is extremely beneficial. And we, as the community, will benefit from that, right? So if they have higher level of skills, they can be in the workforce as opposed to importing people in from out. That's how also you avoid gentrification, right? So I think that, I would need to know more about in Tunisia. But if you look at it from that perspective, as opposed to asking for permission, you invite them in to be participating in what you're doing. So I take a leadership position in everything that I do, and then I invite others in to join me. But that's who I am. Like, I'm used to being in the front. I'm used to flying the plane in the air while I'm still building it. So it's a different mentality, but I am a true entrepreneur, right? You got to break it fast. So you make all those mistakes till you get there. But I've been doing this for 30 years. But I do invite a different perspective, get people on board from a workforce development. It's a competitive advantage. It's a national security issue. It is a tax-based issue. All of those things are things that they relate to. Even though in my heart, I know that I'm getting these kids, the skills they need to compete in the future. I'm giving them an armor so that they have the confidence of being able to understand STEAM. This is not easy stuff. Right now, what are they doing? They're literally building artwork and putting it into the metaverse, and then they're using the VR goggles, and they're interacting with it. That's life-changing, right? That's life-changing. So I was talking to the folks over there at the Society of Women Engineers, and we talked about how important it is for young girls to be able to see themselves in the future. We cannot become what we do not see. And this applies to all people of marginalized or disenfranchised communities. To me, all humans are equal. All humans are humans. People are people. Love is love, right? With that aside, there is systemic disenfranchisement where we want to be able to give folks who normally didn't have that access a little bit of a head start, leg up. And I think STEAM is a great leveling opportunity to give them those future-proof skills. So being able to learn math, absolutely. But it's not just about math. It's about problem solving. It's about being able to come from different directions. I would always challenge my math professors because they would say, oh, do it this way. I'm like, yeah, but I came at it that way. There's no one right way to solve a problem. That's life. That's business. We need to be able to crack codes from all different perspectives. That's why I like doing challenges all the day, doing puzzles. The games that we're building here are immersive. So we're working on this Vanguard program that is truly immersive. Being able to measure, your carbon footprint is amazing. Being able to measure your entire eco footprint is something else, which is very hard. And you can't do that sitting at your computer. You have to get out. How many steps are you going? What public transportation did you use today? Did you actually recycle all of everything that you bought? If you had to keep everything that you bought and you laid it out on the floors, you'd be surprised of how much stuff is not biodegradable. So you putting it in the garbage or recycling, it doesn't mean anything. It's being able to actually look at your footprint. How much of your food had to travel from 6,000 miles away? Just by growing but having a front yard garden and growing your own vegetables, game changer. So that's the type of eco footprint that we're going to get them into doing. Transportation. This is a car city. right? We need to change that. We need to have a trolley. We need to have real bike paths where they're protected, more walkability, free public transit. These are the things that we advocate for. So that comes from not just telling people what to do, showing them. I love gamification because it challenges me to learn, but also I get that little dopamine hit when I level up, or I get an award, or I get to go into the leaderboard, or I get to build out a team. So the games that I played, recently, several years ago, the Roblox, the Sim City, the Clash of Clans, the Pokemon Go. That's what we're looking at. It's all interactive and immersive. But the educational and the learning element, these games can be built, and we can release these games to our brothers and sisters in Tunisia, in the Congo, in Palestine, in anywhere in the world, right? Like that levels it off because it's all technology. We can develop things together and we can share them with one another. But we have to create those universes, those metaverses. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. We have to create those metaverses where people can go into a virtual universe and communicate. And what's cool about that, they also get to build their own avatars and they get to show up how they want it seen. And then inside there, you do what's called green product placements, where we can put in actual technologies from Kia Sarah and Dodge and Michelin and GE and Ford, real technologies, and kids can start interacting with that. And when I say kids, I'm talking anyone under 21, right? Like the youth. So let me, again, pause there and see what questions or ideas came up. And I'll take a sip of my chai latte and we'll continue.
I'm having an interesting moment of like trying to assimilate Michael Matthews' talk and Michael's talk in my mind with how this is more of a discussion point of how like, okay, so technology sounds amazing and we can use it. And there's a question about, which you've answered a lot of, and you can go further into, of how can game and 3D vision technology contribute to raising awareness among people about challenging environmental problems? And someone else dittoed that question. And then there's the other piece that I just wanted to bring in before the answer is, what about, and then how can we also create these technologies in a sustainable way where everyone does everyone get access to these games, and how, and is the technology, if we amplify making it, is that taking a lot from the environment and perpetuating human trafficking or whatever negative impact like the extraction process has? So just throwing that in there.
You lost me there. How do we get from technology to human trafficking?
Just because I had a worry or a concern come up where, like, if we're creating more technology, like more batteries, more phones, more whatever you were using to see the technology to play the games, if we're creating more of that as a product, how that could be consciously, sustainably created.
Interesting perspective. So I'd say that the gaming and the technology is not the root cause, right? So imperialist mindsets, colonialism, colonial settlism, military occupation, that's the root cause that I think should be addressed first. So if you look what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, what are they doing? They're going in there and they're basically, they're trying to extract the cobalt, the copper, the coltan, all the minerals and resources. That's the heart of it, right? And so there's a big geopolitical conversation there. I don't know the audience of everyone on here, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but that is the root cause of it. So we have an ethics problem, right? We have a truth problem, like what people say, what people do, and what people believe are three different things, right? So I'm not going to get too political here, but the root problem is not the technology, right? The demand for new technology so do I need a new iPhone every year? No. I have not bought a new iPhone for 3 years because I don't need one, right? This one works just fine. So it's that late stage capitalism that we actually need to address. Technology, energy sources, this is like bigger stuff. But to just say like, oh, we don't want to have more technology, that's not the problem, right? That's at the end of the life cycle. So the first thing you need to do is what's called a full life cycle analysis. which is what you're getting to, right? For every ingredient, every resource, every product that goes into every device, evaluate that. What can we do differently? How can we, again, reduce, reuse, and then recycle? We're not doing really any of that. So I used to look at a full life cycle analysis, and then it's cradle to grave. So at the end, where do these products go to? Right? Why are we not turning them in and getting a discount? Why are we spending $1,000, $1,200 every year for a new iPhone? I'm not, but I'm saying a lot of people do. So look at the full life cycle analysis. Then look at the people in power, the representatives. Do they actually represent us? Are they representing corporate interests? Are they representing the 1%? Are they representing, the military industrial complex? Like, let's get down to the root cause as opposed to like just saying, oh, well, let's not use technology. No, we must use technology, but we must use technology responsibly. And if there's a problem with resources, then let's look at the root cause, which comes from imperialism, comes from corruption, it comes from people not saying the truth, it comes from people not having enough power, people working so much that they're not in a process of being able to thrive or to be able to survive. So if we want people to be more aware, we have to give them the opportunity to have more free time and free space. Technology, 1000% can be done to use as a power of good, right? So if people can automate their tasks, it used to take them 8 hours in 8 minutes, that frees up, 7 hours and 52 minutes. So we need a robust conversation. I don't do top-down analysis. I do bottom-up. So look at all the factors and look at all the causal, factors and see how we can address that. But we 100% need technology to level the playing field. All right, that was a good question. What else we got?
Thank you. I appreciate the answer too. Very comprehensive. There was a question that I think came out of that question, which is how can these new technologies be made available to help train and empower all populations equally?
Yeah, so something like, what a MOOC is? Massive online collaboration, massive online courses, free and open. So instead of having, this is a fantastic Zoom call, don't get me wrong, but you can also do a MOOC where you can have 10,000 people being involved, 100,000. There's no limitation. So I believe that this type of it's not even about education, really, it's about learning, right? I'm very much about learning. Education as a system is fantastic, but I'm much more about the learning agenda, how to teach people to think and answer the question themselves. You don't want to give a person a fish and they eat for one meal. You don't want to teach them how to fish and farm so they can eat forever.
I'm just adding about what Michael said about, yes, we know that the game industry have many issues related to technology, and many people say that technology do harm the planet. But I agree with what Michael said about how we can use technology and rely technology to solve problems. We need like an LCA report. We need to calculate and to lower resource consumption and minimize the impact. We need to develop a more energy efficient hardware, and we need to optimize this software to reduce demands. And we need also to implement like a sustainable manufacturing process in this industry. So even digital distribution over physical media and physical distribution, encourage also recycling and responsible disposal of such technology, especially electronic or many things that can mitigate the footprint of the game industry. So we need a huge study and calculation in order to provide a more efficient and more sustainable technology and enhance the game industry to serve education.
That was perfectly said. That was so wonderfully said. Now, let me add some questions and challenges to that. I think your statement is spot on. Now, what we need to do also, right, is really look at the greening of that supply chain. And I'm complimenting what you said, where we can look at every single point along the way. Now, we can use artificial intelligence to do that better than we as humans, right? But we as humans must design it. So one of the challenges today, like I was saying, is so much is only through the corporate perspective. and the way corporations are set up is to maximize profit for the shareholders. That is never going to help us out. We must look at this from a bottom up. How do we empower people and lift them up? Because that to me is the solution. The governments around the world, the corporations around the world, they've had their chance. The investors around the world, they've had their chance. They haven't done anything. They've made our lives worse, not better. And all the gains are going there. So I'm not looking to them for solutions. I'm looking to just regular folks from the bottom up. And that's what I think we do. So we can, there's billions of us, and we can help that process. So greening the supply chain. The recent study came out that it's now going to take about $2 trillion a year to green the supply chain. Less than 4 years ago, before I moved here to Greenville, they had 1 trillion as their estimate. So that number just went up dramatically. I don't know what all the factors were, but putting that aside, how can we green the supply chain at a hyper local level? Because that number, like 2 trillion a year, is just so fantastical, and they're not in any way close to even like starting that process. But if you look at your supply chain and your value chain, right? You know the difference? Supply chain, value chain. So supply chain would be within a manufacturing process, everything along the way to take to produce a car. But the value chain would be everything along the way in terms of also services and solutions throughout that entire process. So the value chain for the car, when it goes out and drives and stops at the gas station, that's part of the value chain, but not part of the supply chain, as an example. So we can make that into gaming, because the more we look at being able to evaluate how we immerse ourselves in society on a local level, especially around public transportation, the recycling, the food value chain is massive. So, for instance, if you're in the States, I don't know how much around the world, your food options are really a lot to do with fast food, right? Which is terrible. So, getting some background noise in there, maybe someone could put their mute on. Thank you. So, fast food has one of the worst in terms of sustainability, right? Think about it. Processed food, bad for us. They have to track large trucks all across the country, bad for the environment. Local food, on the other hand, all the food is being grown locally. Like someone said, composting. We get into the composting. For every dollar spent in the local food supply chain, there is a 3 to 5x multiplier in the community, right? Because local farmers hire local people, and then they transport their local food to local restaurants and local grocery stores. You get the picture, right? It stays here. What does that mean? Low carbon footprint. So that's where you can get into gaming and immersive all around the world. And then using AI and machine learning, we're collecting billions of pieces of information and data, but not just collecting it, actually analyzing in real time and then making it actionable. So you have data, which is just everything, right? Data. Information is when you actually structure that information. Intelligence is when you make that information actionable. I can make a decision on it. You ever see something on one page and it's designed, so like, oh, now I know how to make a decision. I have everything I want. Cool. That's what I used to do. I worked in the intelligence industry. So being able to do that analysis on the fly and then sharing that with the global community will really help us. But that's where the immersive gaming comes into play, because we can do that in a fun, competitive way. We can have leaderboards. Let's have USA. Let's have Greenville, partner with Tunisia and with, folks over in the DRC and in Gaza and in Taiwan. Who cares? Or wherever, everywhere, right? If you go on Roblox, you got kids interacting all the time from hundreds of different places around the world, literally at the same time. Like they don't even know the difference. We as adults need to do that as well. And that's why gaming is much more exciting and immersive. But think about all the information we'll be collecting. The greening of the supply chain, it's not going to come from top down. It's going to come from bottom up, in my expert opinion. But yeah, that was great, Nisa. And I look forward to connecting with you afterwards.
Yay. Thank you. Sujan has been patiently waiting to speak in. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Actually, Michael, if it is possible, I just want to, I think, and it means, sorry, I'm just a little bit puzzled. I've been working on this climate and global warming past 2 years. I have collected lots of data, and some organizations are working on this issue to solve it really. And I really thank, there is two of them I found. One is the Climax, which is in Switzerland. And then second one is the MIT. They are really fighting with the carbon dioxide to reduce it, to catch it from the atmosphere and to purify it, and again they are releasing in the atmosphere purified air as a purified air. I really appreciate.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you, Michael, what could be the beginning step we can take, like which I found in my 2 years study. Now we have less trees, and there is a priority based some trees I have analyzed. So well, maybe you will agree with me or not, I don't know, but which I found one, first of all, the first one is oak tree, second is banyan tree, then third is teak tree. These three trees should be prioritized, and we should really go on planting them because they supply us oxygen, and they, what do you call? They purify the air from the atmosphere. Some poisonous components which exist in the atmosphere, they purify them and release them into the air again for us. So this is what I found. So first of all, we should plant trees on priority basis, and then the carbon dioxide which is killing us, killing our lives, killing our babies. And few days back, last year I found it is 8 million per year, environmental pollution and climate crisis. 8 million people been killed per year. It's really, really dangerous. It's really warming, and I really can't accept it. And few days back, again, I checked World Health Organization's data. They are saying 13 million per year. Can you imagine? And actually, how many of us, how many of you really truly collecting the data? Actually, how many people are dying? I'm still confused. Say in my home, what is happening? Are we sick of the due to the air pollution or water pollution, or we don't know who is collecting this data? Are they collecting this data from the hospitals or from government? I don't know, or from NGOs. So maybe you understand some of my what I'm talking, because I have worked on this and I did lots of campaigns, and I'm really serious about it. So that's why I took a little time, thanks to Tracy to giving me the chance. So again, I want to summarize my question. What could be the first our task? Please, Michael, thank you.
So it's all a little loud here. Maybe Tracy, if you could help me. What one where Sujan is from, that would be helpful. And then two, if you could repeat I heard a lot of context, which I appreciate, but I'm not quite clear of the question.
Yes. What country or city are you in, Sujan?
Bangladesh, Chittagong.
And you were saying, what is the first step to take? Is it for yourself or?
Yeah, I'm saying the planting trees is it should be our top priority task, because we have less oxygen, and less oxygen. This is one problem, and second is the oxygen we have is not pure. So our air should be pure. So to purify our air, we need some trees like priority based oak tree, banyan tree, and teak tree. These trees I have analyzed in the internet, and they are very helpful to purify the air. And second is the existing. What could be done to reduce the existing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere? This is my 2 point actually. I hope you understand, Michael.
I think so. So my reflection is like in the moment. I'd rather have a long conversation with you, but I would say that you're not wrong that we need to be planting more trees. There's a lot of efforts around that. My experience in the last 15 years working in this space, that you can plant all the trees you want if you don't solve the crisis of conscious, where people look at some countries as disposable and just places where they only want to extract the resources, and they look at the people as being a nuisance and in the way who must be eliminated. If you don't solve that, planting trees is not going to matter, unfortunately. If you don't really evaluate how we can lower our carbon footprint from, driving less carbon polluting cars,
Exactly.
you can't do anything. If you don't get people like us involved in civics and in representation, then they can just change the rules and the laws. It won't really matter. So I totally agree. We need to plant more trees, but without solving the other systemic issues, it won't have a net positive impact, right? Because you have to look at net positive impact. Yes, you can be planting more trees, but if you're growing more buildings and more cars and more pollution and more late stage capitalism and more iPhones, it won't really matter.
Yes, exactly.
The damage can be done. So you need to be able to do both. And also it comes from changing behaviors. So changing behavior is something that can be done really important. I hear you talk a lot about AI, right? But I know that AI takes a lot of computing power. So unless the computing power is coming from a clean and renewable energy source, that doesn't matter. So I think about everything holistically, as you can kind of tell, right? So yes, plant more trees, but you need to do everything else in terms of civics, representation, addressing corruption, the military-industrial complex, more public transportation, free public transportation, clean renewable energy sources, really addressing our food supply chain, getting ultra-processed foods out of there. So it's holistic to me. You're not wrong, but unless you address everything else, you have to look at this holistically. You can't. There's no silver bullet.
Yeah, I think fossil fuel is our main enemy. Main enemy is our fossil fuel. So we have to end it, and we have to develop the green energy. Okay.
Yes.
Actually, I made some summary sheet, but I cannot share it. I think we don't have the file sharing options here. Otherwise, maybe if you could see, you would maybe suggest me, or maybe we can come to some conclusion, because I'm really serious about it, and I can't accept the 13 million people per year, are just disappearing from this planet. It's not a damn joke. And so, especially the political leaders, I don't know what they're thinking, what they're doing, and I see the conference in each year in many countries. So, but I don't see the changes. It's impacting. Like the city I live, the Dhaka or Bangladesh, it's like really polluted. We can breathe, and noise, it's unbelievable. It's over 100 decibels. It's still I'm glad that I'm alive. But there is no way I can be alive. It's like pollution, hundreds of pollution. There is no way you can go out from home. If you go outside, there's air pollution, noise pollution, dust pollution, and filthy, polluted air. But if you are still inside the home, I don't have the air. I don't have the quality air to breathe in for me, for my family, for my children, and even the water. So we have lots of enemies, and all these enemies are created by us. It's just by human. And this is the funniest thing. I don't get it. So every year there's a conference, hotel bills, vacation, taking some selfies, and we are just going around, okay, I know you, you know me, just handshake, hug, and this and that. Oh, okay, then we had some nice meeting, but no results. It's not affecting us. We don't see it.
Yeah. So
we really have to fight for it. We really have to fight for the green energy.
Yes.
We have to end the fossil fuel. Otherwise we won't live.
Thank you.
Okay, please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you're talking so much, right? Well, I'm not allowing me to respond. So if you want to make a statement, then I suggest you become a presenter next year. But I'm trying to wrap up my show, so thank you. Again, you can only do so much, right? So if you do not understand the politics and get involved, if you're not becoming the change you want to see, then you're going to keep being frustrated. So I suggest you get involved, you run for office, you become one of those leaders, and you do it, or you build a coalition. You got to be the change you want to see. So take that passion and put it into action. But I can explain to you why, the corruption exists and how it's not going to change unless there's major change on our side. But you're going to keep being frustrated unless you want to be the change that you want to see. So I suggest you run for office because that's one of the best things to do. You got to go into a leadership position where you have some authority. Take that passion, brother, and put it to good use. You're 100% right, but you've got to put that into action. Got to put it into action. All right, so we need to wrap up here. Is there any more final questions?
We've got about 6 minutes. Julie had her hand raised.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for this. My question is about technology and education. You were talking about MOOC, I believe you said you could do very and I think it would be great to make education more accessible to people. And my question, and I don't know if you have these statistics or not, in the parts of the world that are being hit hardest by the climate crisis, do the people have access to that kind of education? And if not, what can we do to help make that happen?
Yeah, great question. So access is an important thing, right? Access, opportunity, right? So they have access if they have a smartphone. If they don't have a smartphone, it's very, very difficult. So there's some very remote areas where they will not. But that is probably less than 30% of the world right now that does not have access to a smartphone, might even be like higher at this point. So that's one. Yes. Two, the areas that are hit hardest, we have, why is that the area systemically? And if we look at the role of the United States in a lot of those areas and other empires, we have a huge burden that we need to solve. Our government, right? We as the people are trying to do something differently, but we have to also put pressure on our representatives that aren't representing us, but are representing the global interests of the elite and the corporations. That's a fact, right? In terms of sustainability, if you're not involved in civics and politics and geopolitics and finance and investment, again, you're only like dealing with one part. You need to deal holistically, and the access of education is a very solvable problem. I would need to know, you're talking about theoretically, right? So if you give me a specific example of a country, a city, a town, I can give you a very specific example, but you said something very generic. So yes, we can do that, right? So right now, people travel all around the world pushing their religious beliefs, right? They have all these different ministries going around. So they take it to the people, to push their agenda. What are we doing in a positive way to, be able to say, hey, here's STEAM skills, here's critical thinking skills, here's how to get involved in your community, here's how to green your town, your city, here's the technology you can use, here's the educational resources. That's where, again, immersive gaming is great because you start with education, with learning, you build community, you have conversations. That's how you can change positive behaviors. So that is accessible to everyone unless they do not have electricity or a smartphone. So if someone has a smartphone, 100% accessible. And then it comes down to us, how that gets done, and making sure everyone has opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do feel like those communities that are being left behind without the education and without the access, they can't advocate for themselves, which goes back into that circle of grassroots and people advocating and making the change and being the change. And how can you be the change if you're not? So I'm just double clicking on that we have to find a way to get these resources to those individuals.
Absolutely. So I think you have time for one more question.
Yes. I had a question. I don't see that many more in the chat. I was just curious about testing of the games. Like, what's the current status now? How are they tested for impact or or effectiveness.
What do you mean?
Like different, like cutting edge technology games that are being used to educate.
Educate on what? Do you about the game that we're developing, or
Yeah,
games
I
in
mean,
general?
The one you're developing.
Yeah, so we're designing it right now. So in the design, the first thing I start with is making it inclusive. To make it inclusive, you have to look at people with all abilities or disabilities. To make it inclusive, you have to look at the different sensory options. Some people are very sensitive to light or the sound or whatever. So we do that from the beginning to create a custom bespoke immersive game. So that's one. And then two, testing it. Oh yeah, you want to test it with the broadest audience possible so you get all that great feedback to do that. And then you're collecting the information, and then that same thing that's being analyzed and then put back to that group and get part of the testing. So we do stuff. So right now, this is old school. That's the way it should be done. Most people now, they develop a game, they just throw it out there, and they let the users, the customers, pretty much test it for them. We don't do that. So we're building it all in here. So I would love to invite everyone on this call to be part of that process. So we're in the early stages. So you can all be involved in this, and I would love your feedback. That's the way we do it. We're not going to develop and then put it out there. We want your engagement and your feedback 100% from the beginning.
That would be wonderful. I would love that. And I think a lot of us on here would enjoy to test that out with you.
All right. Awesome.
Well, we'll let you get back to your exciting day over there. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Sounds good. If you send me all the questions afterwards, I'll I can address more offline, but thank you so much. It was good seeing everyone. Sujan, again, love you, brother. I'm serious. We can talk offline. I'm happy to have that conversation. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I needed to wrap this up as well. So I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Good one.
Bye.